everybody. Welcome to the Backstage Pastor. I have my good friends here. Give a warm welcome to Vadim Erika. Nice, Erika. And please welcome everybody else, Erika Coop.
Everybody else.
And my name is Jimmy, host of the Backstage Pastor. I have a question for you guys that I didn't ask you guys ahead of time. Have you ever had a vacation that went wrong?
Yeah.
Or where expectations were not met? What? Tell us, Erika.
My honeymoon, but I feel like everybody could say that on their honeymoon.
Okay, keep it G-rated.
Yeah. We were in Spain, and what comes to mind is Jordan is very much if a little bit is good, a lot is better.
Right.
Kind of personality. And so we bought these rollerblades, and we're in Barcelona, and so there's this big bike path to go to the beach every day. And so we bought rollerblades. The first day we rollerbladed for an hour and a half.
Like around town.
Super fun. Yeah, super fun. So then the next day Jordan's like, wow, if rollerblading for an hour and a half is fun, then rollerblading for 6 hours will be 6 times the fun.
That is so funny. And he would figure that out too.
Yeah, but then he took us on this totally off the path, which is in Spain, cobblestones. And I don't know if any of you have rollerbladed on cobblestones before. And that was our first marital fight. I remember sitting on a park bench, and he's just like, "You're not fun anymore. Why aren't you fun?"
No. 3 days into marriage.
Yeah. And Jordan is very tactful. That's a strength of his.
That is so funny. Wow. So you're 3 days into your marriage, and he's like, you were fun for 3 days.
Yeah, you're not fun anymore. Why aren't you fun anymore?
That is so funny. That would totally be Jordan too.
Yep.
I have one. We went houseboating probably 8 years ago or 7 years ago, and it was so much fun on the shoe swap with the family, Warner family.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it shoe swap?
Shoe swap. It's a shoe swap. However you say it. So much fun. It was a cruise, except you get to be in the driver's seat and run it. And then we went a second time, and it just felt like anything that could go wrong did go wrong. From us accidentally. Oh, there was fires that year, and it was so smoky. So smoky. And there was windows that accidentally got broken, just from whatever moving chairs, and so you couldn't keep the smoke out. Running out of diesel in the middle of
you broke
lost.
the houseboat windows?
Yeah, one of them.
Oh. Yikes.
And getting lost trying to drive places. Oh, and I got vertigo from doing backflips, trying to keep up with Logan. And so I had vertigo for 4 hours, and it killed me. I'm like, I have a whole new respect for people that have experienced that or walk in that. Mm-hmm. I was like, I just do it was so crazy. Caius was a baby. He got an ear infection from the water. And it was if it could go wrong, it did go wrong. It was we were trying to move into we're just trying to have fun and see other houseboats. We're we just want to do what they're doing, but we just can't. We can't move into fun. And then to top it all off, we got back, and all 3 of our vehicles got towed. Oh, we parked them in the wrong spot. And they got towed after hours too. So it was this huge ticket. So we have a little PTSD from that vacation. We're not going back. We would go back at some point, but we're no, there's no way unless things change or whatever. Right. You have a story, vacation gone wrong, or?
I do. I'm not going to go into the honeymoon story. But it was smoking outside. But we just stayed inside.
On your honeymoon.
Which was okay. But one vacation, I remember we went to Nanaimo, and that year we kind of decided, okay, we need to do some hiking trips. So that was our focus. We wanted to find hiking spots. So we found this one, never been there, and we're bringing the kids, and Oh man. So Soren.
What was
not-
that? Did you just feel the pain, a little bit
Yeah.
of the pain there?
Yes, there was a
Thinking
lot
about
of
it?
pain.
The trauma came back.
It was a 2-hour long pain. Actually, more than 2 hours because we went in and out, and the whole time Soren was on my back screaming. And as I'm like, oh, can we just
No.
enjoy this? And he's just flailing there in the back.
Oh,
He's
no.
not enjoying it. So he was, yeah. And it was wet, and yeah, it was just not fun. Should we continue hiking after this?
No.
Yeah.
And the whole time you're like, we're having fun. We're having
Yeah,
fun.
I was trying to convince myself that we are.
Yeah, and then you get into that point where you're like, do we cut our losses and turn around, or it's gonna get better? It's
Well,
gonna
you
get better.
can't because
Yes.
we were like way in the no, I'm determined to go to this waterfall. I'm
Yeah.
gonna see it, but I'm basically deciding I'm gonna suffer through it.
Right.
And then you have to go back, and you have to go back. There's no
Yeah.
way you catch a ride or anything.
And it's hard to know with kids too, because it's like, it could switch instantly,
It didn't.
but all of a sudden they
Yes.
could just start loving it. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this was so worth it. We're playing at the waterfall or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
That is so funny. Oof. Raise your hand here if you've had that experience with your children. Yep.
And my own self. We did. I went into this. There's a building in France, and Katie Hobb just did it too. Well, she's not Katie Hobb anymore.
Amstutz.
Yeah. You go in and it's like, okay, there's 700 steps or whatever. So you're like, okay, great. I'm going to do this steps. Like the steps
Yeah.
weren't going to be a problem to the top of this tower. What they don't tell you is when, as soon as you're inside that door, you're locked in and you can't get out.
Have to go.
And you have to finish. And there's a whole lineup of people behind you, a lineup of people in front of you. There's no windows, and you're just in a super teeny tiny hallway
In
going
a
up.
steady line of people.
Yep, for an hour. And I was like,
And you're at the speed of the people.
yep. And I just kept thinking, if there is a fire, I die. If there is anything, I
Oh,
die. If these
yeah.
people panic and stampede, I die. And I just would like stare at Jordan's back. I've never been so claustrophobic in my life. The lady behind me is just sobbing. I'm like, how are they not
No.
warning people about this?
Oh, yeah.
And then you get to the top.
And you pay for it.
Yep. You get to the top, fresh air, beautiful view, but you know you have to go back down. Same story.
How long do they let you be at the top for?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't remember thinking, oh, I want to stay up here. I remember thinking,
They're
I
get
don't
literally-
remember
me out of
anything
here.
of
Like,
being up top.
let me get this over with.
So they're not like, move along, keep moving, herding cattle.
Yeah, I mean,
that'd be
I
scary.
considered like, will you just rappel me down the side? Like, what do you have up here so that I don't have to do this again?
Oh, man. Oh, man. Okay, I want to ask you guys some questions. And then after these questions, these are just kind of one-off questions. Then I want to get into connection codes. Not the nitty-gritty, as Nacho Libre says, but kind of far-out view in terms of like how it's affecting us as a leadership and as a culture and as a people in our town and what we just feel like the Lord is doing there. First question though, and whoever can answer this. What do you guys think the biggest misrepresentation of God is in the church today? There's no right or wrong answer. This isn't a pass or fail. I'm just super curious what your perspective is on this. Erika.
I was thinking about this a little bit. We had a little bit of warning on this question. And I actually just feel like how much God loves us. And it's not even for lack of trying. Like that's everybody's big goal. But as humans, we only know need. And so all of our relationships and all of my relationship with Jordan and my relationship with my kids and stuff, there's so much need we still have. And we're trying our best to love, but it is tainted by our own pain and our own needs and our own, just so much human limitation. And I'm like, even forgiveness and mercy and love and serving and all of these things, we just have no ability to remove our humanity out of that equation.
Right.
And so to think about being so loved or to love someone without any of your own need. And it's like God doesn't need us.
Right.
Wow.
And it's
Deep,
just such a
deep.
wild,
Yeah.
it's such a wild thing. We'll never, ever, ever, we will never be able to represent God's love well.
Right.
And that just, it feels like.
Yeah. Interesting. And yet he still trusts us. He still entrusted the running of the planet to us. You know, he didn't just scoop us out at the cross. And he's like, no, I trust you guys to carry out this message still, even though you're going to miss it and not understand it.
Yeah. And he's still like, entrusting us to represent Jesus.
Right.
And Jesus is love. God is love. And we are going to represent Jesus to everybody who doesn't know him.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's weighty.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah. I was thinking about it. I have two, but I'll just stick to one.
I did give you guys like a whole 10 minutes of preparation ahead of time, by the way.
Yeah.
So
I think one of the biggest misrepresentations is that I think we portray God as oftentimes as a church as someone who can be put in the box. Like you can actually take this God who is all powerful, omnipresent. He's everywhere. He can be, understood by human mind. But we say, no, you can actually do that. And you can put him in the box with 4 sides or whatever, 5,
yep.
6, and you can close the box and keep him there. And I think that has been damaging. It's almost like we're telling people, hey, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. But we will tell you the way, the truth, and the life.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we got past that. Like, what does it actually mean? Or what does he mean by that? And how can we direct people to his understanding and definition of the way, the truth, and the life? Yeah. So I think we've created the box in some ways. And yeah, the box that can seemingly fit God.
Yeah. Interesting. I feel like I learned so much about you guys just from hearing what you feel like is missing from the church or how we're representing God.
Yeah. I mean, that right there, what you're saying about that box, I've been thinking about that so much because Glenn on the weekend was talking about how we don't believe the same as we did 10 years ago.
Right.
And so to think of us as a staff team right now, feeling so much conviction about so many things. And we have belief systems around all of these different areas. And to know in 10 years from now, it would look wildly different.
Yes.
And somehow having the faith to stand on your conviction, having the faith to say like, no, this is what I'm hearing from God. This is what I think his heart is revealing.
Right.
While also holding that intention with knowing I see in part.
Yeah.
That's such a wild, weighty thing. And it's like confidence and humility and that tension.
Yeah. See in part and am going to think and believe differently next year. Not on major things necessarily, but on lots of things.
I had a guy come up to me and I had a conversation with him. He was so frustrated and disappointed in the way things were done in the church and his understanding relationship with God. And he at one point in the conversation, he says, everything that I knew and understood about God up until now was wrong. And I looked at him like, really?
Wow.
Like, you're going to tell me the same thing 5 years from now? What you are telling me does right now in your view, right? Like our understanding of God is always evolving. It's always, it's relational. It's like a relationship. It grows or is stagnant. So yeah.
Wow. I think for me, the biggest misrepresentation, there's lots, but one in the top 3 would be the idea that the more you study your Bible, and the more Bible study you have, the more you become like Jesus.
Right.
And of course that's partially true, but also missing so much. Like the religious people that Jesus was so furious at were the people that thought that way. But I think it was Dr. Glenn who said, maybe it was him, maybe it was somebody else, how we just default back to religion so quickly. Yeah. Like it's such a blanket for us, like a little kid with their binky and bottle and blanket. Like
Safety.
it's such a safety for us, and we default, thinking if I learn this book, which is not a Bible. What is that book? I think it's actually a John
Is
Calvin.
that Calvin's?
Why do we have a John Calvin book there?
Because it looks cool.
Calvinism. Oof. But if I study this book so much and just learn it so well, I'll automatically become more like Jesus. But I think the opposite is actually true, is that you actually can get further and further and further from his heart if you aren't recognizing that that book points to him. And so we think we're doing a great job as leaders or as pastors. We have all these Bible studies and we're teaching the Bible and we're doing all these things. It's like, but people are learning more verses and they're learning context and they're learning stuff, which is good. Like we were talking about that the other week. But to think that, like scripture says, unless you, I forget how it words it, but unless you become, have more knowledge than the scribes and Pharisees, you aren't going to get this. It's like, okay, hold up. Who is going to have more knowledge about that book than the scribes and Pharisees? Not me,
Yeah.
not you. It's like, okay, wait. He's saying nobody is going to, like, you can try getting more knowledge than these guys. You won't make it.
Right.
Well, and
And you'll still miss it.
the problem with that theology then is it's the smartest people who make it to heaven. It's the smartest people. And I remember years ago we were having
That's good.
conversation, just this
With
big
a smart
theological debate. And I just remember that night just saying to Jordan, like, if this is what it takes, I'm screwed.
Right. I don't think
Like,
you're
if this
dumb.
is-
I don't think you're a dumb person though, Erica.
Right. But like just this ability to retain and to study and to remember and to have it memorized.
Yes.
It was like, wow, if this is what it takes, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
If you actually have to be like the smartest person in the room, if you have to be a
Right.
theologian, then the most, and it isn't even necessarily intelligence. It's one kind of intelligence.
Yes.
Right.
It's true. And isn't it interesting though that like we can get back there so fast and become so deceived so quickly. But it's also true that it's like the more I know about this book and understand this book, the easier it is for me to hear Jesus and become
Yeah.
more like him. So in your husband's words, it's a paradox.
When you say that in your
Yeah.
husband's words, they just immediately get hit with fear.
In Jordan's
What
words.
version is going to come out now?
But man, I would like it to be true that the more Bible studies we have and the better, like the more we just push into that book, the more we automatically become like Jesus. Like as a pastor, as a leader, so nice. That would be so nice to think that or to believe that.
Yeah.
Well,
And the other thing too is the closer you get with Jesus, the more your relationships will just naturally be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
That is just an offshoot.
Right. Yeah. Automatically with no work. Of course, he pushes us out into those relationships, but you still have to work on them.
Well, and I think sometimes we judge closest with Jesus by the level of gifting we walk into.
Yeah.
But when he gives gifts, he doesn't take them back. So you can be walking in a ton of gifting. And I mean, I feel like there's tons of those stories. Even that Jesus Revolution movie, that's such an example of that story where it was like there's all this gifting and anointing, and he doesn't take that back even when character begins to slip.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. So true. Okay, I would love to talk with you guys about connection codes and how it has affected us. Maybe, and go into like, this is the Backstage pastor. We're bringing people backstage, the happenings in leadership at Evangel, the happenings in staff, the misses that we have, the conflict that we have, the fights that we have. I would love to just like dive into that. So maybe first question, how have you guys seen the truths of connection codes, which we aren't going to go into that. We've talked lots about connection codes. Many of our people have taken the course or reading the book. If you haven't, go do the next course, probably in the spring. Hey,
Yeah.
next connection codes, or go read the book or listen to the podcast. Let me just say this first. I truly think that in Evangel, the Lord is bringing us these puzzle pieces, and He's making something beautiful. And the truths of connection codes or connection codes is not everything, but it's a puzzle piece that we must
Right.
get and understand and use properly to go where He's actually taking us.
Yeah.
And so it feels like He's bringing in this puzzle piece, and He brings in this puzzle piece and this puzzle piece. And so I would just love to like talk to you guys and ask you guys a question. How has the puzzle piece of connection codes, how is it affecting our staff and our relationships and conflict? Go. Maybe what did it used to look like versus now? What's an example of how you see it affecting your life? Staff stuff.
Yeah, I'll start.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, it all started with my home,
Right.
because that's what I compared to. My home wasn't, emotions were not expressed. Things were expressed through emotion. And so that's what I learned.
Growing up.
Yeah, whether it was
Right.
anger or, sadness, you just kind of, you shut down or you yell, whatever, all that. So going through life, you basically, you're in a workplace, you're in school,
Right.
education, interaction with people, church. That's kind of, you notice that most of us, that's how we relate to each other. It's kind of like how we were brought up in some ways.
Right. Yeah.
Some homes were maybe more emotionally in tuned, or how you say, we're talking about intelligence. So emotional intelligence. Maybe there was more emotional intelligence in the in the home. Mine wasn't. So I could say like I was emotionally dumb, like numb, dumb, whatever you want to call it.
Right. Yeah.
Just emotions were always there, and most of the time they were sort of the opposite of where God wants you to take. So it's kind of like you're resisting them in your own life. You're not allowing anger to happen. You're not allowing fear to have place in your life. And still wrestling with those things because, there's some things like, oh, Jesus took our shame, guilt. Like, how does it fit? But, I decided I'm going to just kind of set that aside for now because I feel like the Lord is saying something.
Right.
And
That's good. Can you expound on that?
On what?
What you just said. I feel like
I said many things.
Okay, what you just said, I feel like that is so important. I just want to put an exclamation mark on that. That you're saying, I don't fully understand this connection codes thing or this puzzle piece.
Right.
And I have lots of questions about this. But you said, but for now, I know that the Lord's bringing me something new. There's going to be confusion for sure because I'm learning something new. That's the definition. And you're setting your questions for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not giving up. I'm not saying like, oh, I'm invalidating all my questions and doubts.
Right.
What I'm doing is what every peace talk between two parties would do. They would set aside their differences or preconceived notions in order to have a conversation, meaningful conversation.
Right, to understand something.
Understand each other, to find common ground.
I love that.
This is the biggest thing, is like you need to find common ground. It's whether it's in your relationships, conflict, resolution, marriage. Finding the common ground is where you both can stand. And then from there you can kind of, explore.
Right.
I'm like, oh, I need to find common ground. So like when we introduced connection codes, our leadership team decided we're going to test it.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to we want to be good leaders. We want to make sure we know and understand what this is and how it works and whether it works. And once we did that, we were like, for us, it was like, whoa, there is something in it. We don't fully understand it.
Right.
I don't fully agree with it. Lots of questions, doubts. But there was something inside of me that kind of like man, this is so different from where I grew up.
Right.
This is so
Right.
different from the church that I grew up, where relationships were strained and leadership were always fighting, quarrels, gossips, divisions. I feel like this is something that was missing. This was the missing piece, like you always call it. And so when we started doing it in our staff meeting,
Right. Yeah, go there. Bring us in. Bring us in.
you know, we started very, very slow and just processing the Sunday. We would go around and just name the emotions, the 8 core emotions
Yeah.
of what we felt in the on Sunday. So it was Tuesday, and so we would look back 2 days ago, which wasn't processing in the
Yeah.
That's true.
in the moment quite yet, but nevertheless, it was something new. We haven't done that. None of us really knew what was happening on Sunday. So you didn't know what was happening for me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was happening for Erika. But once we started doing that, all of a sudden we'd know, let's say I would say I felt lonely in this whole live stream area department because I'm
Right.
the only one
Yeah.
kind of overseeing it.
Yeah.
And everyone is focusing on their stuff, which is like, that's just reality. And, you know, I'm not asking you, hey, can you help me? Unless I do ask. But in that moment, I want you to know that what's happening to me.
Right. And
Right.
before,
Yeah.
things were only brought up if we were looking for a logistical change. Now,
Right.
then it became, even if we don't need a change, we're going to still connect over it.
Right. And even even now, it feels like it's for 33 years or 2 years of my life. If a pain for you is brought up in the live stream, like, I just feel pain about this. It's like, it's everything in me to jump in and want to just make it better for you.
Right. Or
and
say
fix
like,
it.
guy, you don't need to feel that.
Yeah. It's not a big deal.
I don't do that, do I?
Not anymore.
There's no
not
way
as
I
much.
disregard you like that. But
Yeah. So it became more less about logistics and more about connection, and emotion is what connects us. So just
Right.
hearing what was happening, and emotion, like naming the emotion, is just a short. I see it as a shorthand, of like a abbreviation for what is happening for you. If I say
Right.
lonely,
Yeah.
you don't know what that fully means, but you can identify because you have the same thing in your brain.
Right.
You felt it before.
Yeah.
So you kind of like, you can relate to that. And that's the connection point. Whereas logistics is more like, I think this is how we fix it. You think this is how we fix it. And
Yeah.
we disagree. Whereas,
And one person wins and
always-
one person loses.
Yeah. So that was different. We never done that. We've never done just like processing emotions about what happened on Sunday. And I think it was really helpful doing that. Start doing that.
Yeah.
We still do that.
How good are we doing at it? Would you say?
I think we're
Out of
pretty-
10. Out of 10. Like, here's
okay,
just
when
perfection.
you need to be very specific. What are we doing? Expressing our emotion, or going oohing, or are we getting into like, what do you need from
Or
me?
just connecting
what
with
do you
each
need?
other.
Or getting
Yeah.
stuff done.
Yeah.
How helpful has it been, specifically in staff meeting, the tools of connection goes? What is your smile? I see you're just grinning over there. Are you thinking of a story?
No, I'm just thinking about how hard that question is to answer.
Yeah. Okay. Let me narrow it down. Specifically in staff meeting, the tool of connection codes. How do you think we're doing? There's no right or wrong answer. How does Vadim think we're doing in terms of staying connected as a team, like teamship?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the obvious one to me is like, I still want to get crap done.
Right. It's attention. Yeah.
Because I think sometimes in like, I don't want to say the early days as though we're just old timers, but sometimes you would voice to me like, are we just going to like process Sunday every time? Like, when are we we do have to get to logistics at some point, like we do or whatever.
Yeah.
So staying connected as a team and like getting crap done. How do you feel like it's working out of 10? If 10 is just heavenly.
Yeah, if that is still a tension, I think. I don't think we figured that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And I don't know if there's a solution. Maybe
Yeah.
what I see, maybe what we need to do now is we need to kind of move along the 4 phrases.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think we still
Which
need
are?
to work oohing first
Right.
is a ooh when someone expresses the emotion, says what they felt. You say ooh, or as my son Soren says, ew.
You.
He's 3 years old and he is learning.
You. I'm gonna use that with Tiana. Ew.
I don't think that's going to go well.
You. I get that.
Yeah.
Second phrase.
What am I missing? Or I missed that.
Yep.
I missed that, and we missed each other on that. I didn't notice that you felt that. Whatever. And then
The second phrase is what's
happening.
And the third
I
See,
was
that's
thinking-
how good we're doing.
I
don't
was
even
like,
remember
oh,
the
maybe I had it
phrases.
backwards. So you them,
You ew them.
and then what's happening for you?
Yep.
You don't ask why, because why is an accusation? Why are you like this?
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
you do feel that somebody
It
says
makes
why.
you want to start defending it
Yeah.
or like justifying it.
Yeah, and if you don't believe me, for people listening, just get somebody to ask you why when you're feeling a bit flooded. You immediately feel like you just have to stand up for
It's
your
also
rights.
a passive aggressive way to confront a person. Why did you do that? It's like
Why?
you know
Why?
they did that, and you know that they
Yeah.
can't answer, or there is only one answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Third phrase is, I missed that.
I missed it. Yep.
And a miss doesn't mean that you're wrong or Erica's was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a miss.
Recognition, yeah.
And the fourth phrase, which I think is super important, which, by the way, I was shocked having Glenn and Phyllis here for 8 days or whatever, and just getting to rub shoulders with them, how much stuff they get done.
Mm-hmm.
Like how, and you've always said this, like Phyllis is just a, like,
Yeah. Their
bulldozer
capacity is
kind of.
endless.
Yeah, crazy. And so in some of our sessions with mine and Tiana's sessions with Glenn, he often brought us back to, you guys have to get to the fourth phrase.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, this is like the fruit out of your connection. It's like,
Right.
okay, you're connected. And then it's like, there's got to be fruit out of it. And the fourth phrase is,
What do you need? I used to say, what do you need from me?
right.
And the
Incorrect.
thing is what do you need is really hard. We spent months trying to figure
Right.
out what do you need, because that's a really vulnerable question to ask or to answer. It's
Yeah.
a really vulnerable question to answer, because then what if they say no, or what if they don't do it for you, or what if like it just exposes your vulnerability
Right.
and your weakness.
Yeah. Yeah. So out of 10, Vadim, give me a number. How do you think we're doing as
I think we're doing
Connected
about 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very
I would,
subjective.
that's joy to hear that.
Really?
I feel like we're at like 2.5.
Wow.
Like I think we're on to something.
I think we're
grasping
over
at
the hump.
Wow.
Which is why I put it at over
Hump is
5.
5.
Yeah.
over the tipping point.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it was the first days. It was very difficult because it's like you almost feel like you're forced, and like get over that
Right.
part of like being feeling like you're being forced, but actually willing to go there.
Yeah.
That to me is the hump.
Interesting.
We're over.
That gives, you know what? I'm going to stick with this then. If we're at a 6, I can stick it through. Let's keep doing this.
Love it.
I'm kidding, but interesting. That's super cool. Erika, what are some like, what are maybe some joys that you're just seeing that like the connection codes truths are bringing to like staff dynamics,
Well, I think,
maybe some pains.
yeah, I think even just what you're saying, Vadim, about being over the hump a little bit, I think I feel a lot of joy after the
Yeah.
weekend of kind of perceiving a hump. The thing about connection codes is it gets harder before it gets easier, and going slower is
Amen,
going
sister.
faster. So
Amen.
even how much it slowed down our staff meetings, the like ironic thing is I knew we weren't doing it well, and that's why we're going slower at it. But I didn't have the confidence to like go all the way in. And so it's like kind of 1 foot in and 1 foot out,
Right.
which immediately makes you slower at it.
Right.
But it's like, it's not meant to take a long time. If you're being really authentic with each other in real time, it's actually quick and it's not messy. And I had experienced that in Nashville. But what happened is,
because you went to live, you and Jordan and family lived with them for 3 months.
Yeah. So being in Nashville, Jordan and I were in an environment where everybody is fluent in this language.
Yeah.
And so everything is quick. Everything is in real time and smooth. And you're not dealing with, a backlog of emotion, a backlog of conflict, a backlog of things that you've missed. Nothing has been missed. And so we were in a cohort of 15 people, and all of these people, well, it's on Zoom. It's not easy to feel connected on Zoom, but immediately, like, we're just so connected to everybody's deepest emotions, deepest experiences, deepest vulnerability.
Right. Yeah.
And so I had experienced that. But sometimes what happens is you go and you learn a new software, you learn it, but then to learn it enough to be able to articulate it and then to troubleshoot it is a whole nother thing. And so I came home with so much hope and joy and excitement, but underestimating, first of all, how long that journey takes, like how long Jordan and I had been on it to even get to the place we were at.
Right.
How long all of the people who were in our cohort had been connection coders before it kind of got to that point.
You guys were connection coders for 2 years before you lived with them? Or
Probably a year. Yeah, a year and a half before. And then, but of course, living there, that speeds up the process a lot. And so I came home having seen a superior reality, having seen what it looks like when people are really authentic, really vulnerable with each other. And it's not, nobody is being ruled by their emotions. It's not this crazy dramatic thing. It's just like, hey, this is what's happening for me. We're going to be present. It's quick. It's done. You move through it.
Yeah.
And so then I came back wanting to bring this to the staff team.
Right.
Wanting to bring this level of connection and vulnerability and authenticity, but not necessarily knowing how to bring it in a nice, like, slow manner of just baby steps. And then also kind of wanting to be like, hey, stick with it. It gets better.
Right.
But then also not having the confidence to be like, nope, this is wrong. Or then when I did do that, it was like, that was really hard.
And meanwhile, we're yelling, does it get better? Prove to me that it gets better.
Yeah.
This is painful. This is hard.
Yeah.
This is a new language.
Yep.
I would love to go into, like, when you say language, it is full on a new language. Like, I actually am to the point now where I feel so much joy when a person takes connection codes, and not that they've got it all of a sudden, but all of a sudden you can speak this language together.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing that people who have not taken connection codes or are learning this language, it is so difficult sometimes to connect with them, to get things done, to express pains or hurts or what's happening for you. I just find that you don't want to share. You just kind of shut down and go back to English. It's like, okay, well, let's just speak English.
But then that kind of feels really empty because you're like, there's all these things I want to share with you and I don't know how because you are trying to fix me or it. Yeah. One of the biggest clunky things about connection codes is when you're first starting to be really authentic and really vulnerable, it sounds like you're... So at the beginning, what Jimmy is used to is Erika only brings up things if they're something Jimmy needs to fix. Right. Or if they're a 7 out of 10 on the scale of pain.
Right. So why are you bringing this up? Why are you bringing this up?
Yeah. So if I'm trying to be really authentic, vulnerable, keep just like in the moment, ooh, felt this. Oh, this is happening. Then at first it feels like, oh my word, Erika is just overwhelmed. She's burnt out. She's crashing. She's whatever. And it's like, no, I don't actually need to change. I just want to let you know what's happening with me. And it's like this quick little thing that's over. But if you speak that language and somebody else doesn't, that's really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. You feel disregarded. Okay. Remind me to do this at the end. I would love to do like a real life scenario, like maybe just a single pain point that we feel in our role here as leaders of Evangel, and just hear it and ooh each other to give like an example.
Yeah,
because Erika, I remember so many times where it's like you're overseeing Kid City and it's like you would bring something. Hey, we need like more chairs, or this is a pain point, or that, or whatever it is. And it's like, as you're speaking, I'm trying to fix it. I'm on Amazon. I'm ordering something. I'm fixing something. I'm emailing someone, getting a carpenter in or whatever, trying to like fix it. Which is interesting if you think about it, because what I'm saying is feel no pain, feel no pain, feel no pain, feel no pain. Band-aid, band-aid, band-aid.
Well, and
right?
at first you would bring me in for meetings when I would have a few things, like a few pain points in a row. And you were like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Like, what do we need to do?
Are you
what do you
burning out?
need? Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm just letting you know. But it was because your experience was nobody says anything until they're on fire.
Late. Yes.
And then
good.
now it's too late. And it's like, no, I'm just letting you know what's happening for me.
Yeah.
That is so true. Almost PTSD. It's like, no, you don't talk like this. You don't share these things. You aren't this open. You just shouldn't be this open. Unless something's broken, or unless you're ready to head out the door, or unless you're just fully flooded. But it's like, oh wait, this culture, as we're starting to get it, I think we're starting to get it, is like, no, you're simply bringing people in on what's happening for you. It was interesting. Right before this, I had a phone call with somebody who does not speak the connection codes language, and they were talking with one of our people who do speak connection code language, and they were just processing with me a little bit what our connection coder was processing with them. And the way that they were saying, I mean, I could be totally wrong, but the way that they were saying it was just, like they sent me this, message, and we're sharing like some of their pains with their job. And there was some tears, and sometimes they mentioned that sometimes they just feel like they're wanting to quit. Do you know this? Like, kind of like, just I don't know what's blown up there. And I think immediately I felt joy that like I feel like, and I'm not totally in the know, but felt so much joy that I knew about those things, because this person processes these with me and shares them with me as the leader, one of the leaders here of Evangel. And I was thinking, that must be so strange for a non-connection coder, because the only time you hear those is when they're sidestepping somebody to tell somebody else, to be like, I am just so done. But it's like, no, it's actually culture. You're just bringing people in on everything. And it's so strange. It's so strange that like, it's just so weird to try and like even understand what it must sound like to somebody who is not used to people letting them in on what's happening, on everything.
Yeah, like, well, I just had a conversation on the phone with someone, and I just, because of the connection codes, that became my language.
Right.
So even you were saying, I felt joy, that's part of the connection code. So I expressed to him what I felt in that moment, and I said I feel guilt and shame about something.
Right.
There's no reason to feel that.
Stop.
And he just doesn't speak the same language.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we started to notice when people say that. We kind of joke about that now. But it's like it basically disregards my emotion, my experience.
Which is,
and
to
I know
disregard.
he doesn't mean that he's not intentionally doing that,
Right.
but that's not his language. So he's speaking Spanish, I speak English, or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think
it's so true.
Vadim and I were talking about this a bit earlier. The fundamental value system of connection codes is meant to empower you. So the idea is, when Vadim is feeling guilt and shame, the reason I'm going to be present with him, I'm going to regard his experience, and I'm going to say, what do you need? Is because that empowers Vadim to actually think about what he needs. And it's actually on him to ask for what he needs. Even if what he needs is something from me, it's still not my job to figure out what Vadim needs.
Right.
It's his job.
Yeah.
And that is such an empowering and freeing feeling. And having Glenn and Phyllis with me this weekend, and I'm doing this big conference, and they really tuned into the fact that I'm kind of always sitting, watching, and being hyper aware of how everybody's feeling and how sensitive they are. And Glenn's like, you have got to relax into your authentic self, you are going to burn out. You
Right.
need to
Yeah.
trust that the people in your life are going to be authentic with you. And he's like, what's the fear for you? And, you know, Phyllis talked about the fear, how for a long time for her, it was the fear of rejection. And I'm like, oh, it's not the fear of rejection for me. It's the fear of other people aren't okay. Other people are going to lose identity with me. Other people
Right.
aren't going to tell me I'm going to hurt other people. And he said, you have to be able to just trust that the people in your life are going to be authentic with you and let you know, oh, lost some identity with you. Oh, felt hurt by this, whatever. And then you can be present with them and ask what they
Yeah.
need. But you just relax into your authentic self.
Right.
And that's just so opposite of kind of how I was raised. You know, you're trying to serve everybody, serve everybody, serve
Right.
everybody.
Yeah.
But it's like I become hyper aware of what everyone in the room is feeling.
Yeah.
And that isn't sustainable.
Interesting. Yeah. Isn't it so, as you're speaking, I'm like, that is like a little bit of an aha moment. That is one of the huge benefits of this language is that you're fully trusting people to let you know what's happening for them.
Yeah.
And once you learn this language and get in a rhythm and routine of, I'm trusting that Vadim is bringing me in on what's happening for him. I'm trusting that Erika's bringing me in on what's happening, which means nothing. And you're trusting that I'm bringing you guys in and we're learning this. Like I feel like for so long I went away and processed with God and then I came back better and nobody knew Jimmy or my pains or what was happening for me. But what's so refreshing is theoretically, if we're doing this correct, nothing should ever shock me just out of the blue at a later date. Right.
Yeah, and you're
Because-
also not sitting there exhausted of trying to figure out what everybody needs.
Yes,
because
and
they're
what's
telling you.
happening for them, trying to figure it out. Because when Vadim steps on a nail, he's saying, ouch, in the moment. He's not waiting 2 years. And then 2 years later, he tells me about a nail that he stepped on 2 years in the past. And then what's hard is getting used to that culture, and then people who don't understand that culture and aren't telling you what's happening. It's so exhausting when you aren't brought in on what's making them tick and what's happening for them.
Let's go on that nail analogy a little bit farther, because
Yeah.
here's the other thing that happens in our culture is Vadim steps on a nail. He doesn't say ouch, and he doesn't convey the need. He doesn't move the nail. He doesn't anything.
Right.
But he starts limping. So then Jimmy sees Vadim limping, and Jimmy's like, oh, Vadim's limping. I know what Vadim needs. He needs me to rearrange this and this and this because that will solve Vadim's pain.
Or he
And
needs
he's-
to go to the gym.
Yeah, and now Jimmy is guessing. He's filling in the blanks
Yeah.
because he doesn't know.
Right.
And that's
And
what
I'm
we're
not
doing
telling
all
him
the time.
either. I'm not telling him either.
Yes.
Because I'm not sure. And I'm just like, Vadim, hey, I bought you a gym pass. You'll enjoy it. You would like this. Meanwhile, I have these ulterior motives that it's like, he's limping. I think he needs to work out his left calf or
The
something.
biggest thing
you
that
know?
changed in me, inside of me, at first, Connection Codes was for my family. And then even going to Nashville was just for, coaching and helping other marriages. There was no part of me that was thinking about it in the context of church and the church body at that time.
Right.
But the biggest thing that changed for me in Nashville was all of a sudden it was like, hang on. The core belief under this, and I believe a core belief that's changing everything for me, is we were all created to give glory to God. We were all
Right.
created to worship Him. We were created to serve Him. And so
Yeah.
all we need to do as leaders is create enough safety that we can help you remove the smoke. We can find out what's happening for you
Right.
and say, hey, what do you need to be able to worship God? What do you need to be able to experience His love? Like, what's happening for you? What is the smoke in the room that you're not actually walking out your calling or walking out your gifting or walking in close relationship
Right.
with
Yes.
God? What's
Yes.
missing? Because that is what you were created for. I don't actually need to push you in that direction.
Right.
God's already pulling you.
Yeah.
Jordan had a
Wow.
phenomenal example of this at work. There was a guy, and this guy had just experienced so much pain, and he just was like so open. Like, I hate God, hate religion. Like, I have no
Wow.
place for that. And Jordan was talking to him about the identity questions. Do I matter to you? Do I have significance? Do I have value to you? And he's like, when I was a kid, I prayed and prayed and prayed for my dad to live. He had cancer. He was sick. I prayed and prayed and prayed for my dad to live. And I was like, this is the only thing I'm asking from you, God.
Right.
And his dad died. And so he was like, okay, never believing in you, like never going to serve
Right.
you.
Right.
And
Fair.
yeah, totally. And in that moment, Jordan could have spoke truth like, hey, that's not
Yeah.
giving
Incorrect.
him. Yeah, totally. And so instead he just oohed and he said, wow, it makes so much sense that if you received a no from God, that this little boy doesn't have value and significance to God, it makes sense that you'd have a hard time serving that kind of a God. I
Yeah.
think I'd have a hard time too.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of the day. And at the end of the day, this guy comes back and says, well, actually, my dad was really, really abusive. He used to beat the crap out of me and the crap out of my mom. And I don't know, maybe God was protecting us from him.
Wow.
And it was just like
And
a total
he brought
shift.
it back up.
He brought it up. Jordan just
Wow.
oohed him and was present. And it just
he
was
cleared
like
the smoke.
totally. Jordan was present with this guy to clear the pain and to ooh the pain and regard the pain. And then it was like this thing inside this guy, because this man is not following the Lord right now. It doesn't matter. He was
Yeah.
still created to follow the Lord.
Yeah.
And that still comes. And so it was like,
So
wow,
cool.
maybe that's our job. Maybe our job is to just create a space for so much safety
Yeah.
that people are authentic. And then the smoke gets cleared.
Yeah.
And then they're able to say, this is what I need. When we were there, we would just hear story after story of Glenn and Phyllis would actually sit and be the therapists for the people who, had been prayed for healing or received these big prophetic words. And it actually was traumatizing for them
Right.
because of what came out of it, or not the love, or not
Yeah.
cared for. When they weren't healed, they
didn't
lose
have-
identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, we have to create a culture. We don't stop praying for people to get healed. We don't
Yeah.
stop giving prophetic words. We don't stop pursuing the supernatural.
Right.
But we also have a culture of enough authenticity
Yeah.
that we know what's happening in there. Like, oh, I didn't get healed. I feel so much sadness. I didn't get healed. I feel fear that that's actually a sign that God doesn't love me. I
Right.
feel anger with God. Like, there has to be a space for that.
Wow.
Yeah. No, that's so good. I just wanted to read this. I was sharing this with you guys. Where is faith without works? James 3 or 4? James 2, 14 to 26. Okay, I was reading this the other day, and I was like, man, this is so good. And this points out how we have missed so bad as a church. So this is James 2, verse 14. It says, what is a prophet? This is under the caption, faith without works is dead. What does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? And I think we often think of that as like, okay, you have to have faith and you need to like start a soup kitchen. You need to feed the poor. You need to have them in your home. You need to do this or that or the other thing. But I saw it in a different light, I think because of the Connection Code conference. If someone says he has faith but does not have works, can faith save him? If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food. So Glenn talks about somebody comes and their arm is bleeding or their leg is bleeding and there's just blood everywhere. And we say, let me pray for you, brother. Versus the person's bleeding, they need
Yep.
a Band-Aid or they need Emerge.
Yeah.
And we aren't saying don't pray, like of course, but we're overlooking the pain and we're bypassing them to get something. So listen to what this says. Somebody comes to you, their leg is bleeding out. They're naked. They're destitute of daily food. Verse 16. And one of you says to them, I'm going to use my spiritual voice here.
I'm ready.
Depart, be warmed and filled. But you do not give them the things. Was that good? Did that sound like an old King James kind of scripture reader? Yeah. If you say, depart, be warmed and filled, but you do not give them the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? Thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, it's dead, yo.
Wow.
But how many times as leaders have we had people come to us or for prayer or for counseling or just to be heard? And we immediately jump on, give them a whole bunch of Bible verses or a whole bunch of things to do or this point or set your alarm clock earlier. You got to get to the gym. You got to wake up earlier. Hit them over the head with the Bible. Depart, be warmed and filled. Meanwhile, they have no food and no clothing, according to James 2. and we're completely missing them as a person.
Missing the need.
Yes.
In that case, it's the physical need,
Yeah.
which needs to be met.
Yeah.
And we spiritualize it so much that we don't see it.
And James is saying, alert, alert, alert. Just so you know, your faith is dead. It's nothing.
Yeah, your
It's
spirituality.
nothing because you did not meet the need. There was no works attached to it.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
It is.
I would love to get into a topic specific. How much time do we have? What time did we start? We have 15 minutes? 10 minutes?
Don't ask me.
I forget when we started. When did we start, Erika?
What time is it?
2:45.
We have 5 minutes.
Okay, 7
Yeah.
minutes. How about 7? I would love, if you guys are down, I would love to get into a scenario that happened at a staff meeting 2 or 3 weeks ago, just between us three.
Okay.
What happened with us three. And because I think the biggest pains and the biggest joys for me is conflict with the connection codes tools, how conflict works. And we have had our fair share.
By we, he's mostly looking at me.
Well, I just want to say, like, how do I say this? Erika has called me higher many times, and I'm so thankful for it. And by called me higher, showed me areas where I'm missing with so many people. And I think, like, we should all do that. Like, for sure, we should all do that. But with that comes many of these, right, Erika? Remember?
Yeah, let's just say Jimmy has called me his most difficult staff member.
Wow, let's make that public.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's
And a lot of that has been out of my own unprocessed emotion, not tuning
Right.
into myself.
you trying to figure out things. What is this? How do we do this?
Dysregulated Erika looks like fear that there's
Right.
so much damage being done right now. We'll never be able to recover. So I need to like
Run
sound
out of the
all
room?
the alarms and yeah.
But you've never run out of a room because you've been so flooded, hey?
I
out
like
of a
how
meeting
that's
with
the
me?
part that's the bad part. But like I feel like exiting the scene was good because before I exited
It
the
is
scene,
true.
it was Jimmy and Erika yelling at each other while poor Gigi's probably like outside the huddle room, like covering her
Oh yeah,
ears.
guaranteed Gigi was interceding.
So,
Yeah.
Outside of the room.
leaving the room in the middle of conflict, you call it
Exiting the scene.
So
Glenn
we're
said,
fine, right?
"Yeah, that's
Did you
it
say
to-
that to me before you exited the scene?
No, there's some rules you're supposed to do. In that moment, I was fleeing before things got really, truly ugly.
It's true.
So you were fleeing the scene.
I'm not gonna exit it. I'm gonna flee. Okay, here's what I'm gonna say. We don't have much time. I love what Connection Codes does, and when I say love, it's a love-hate
Yeah, totally.
for conflict. I think if there's a banner that Connection Codes waves, it's this will help you majorly with conflict. It's not the easy road. In fact, Tiana actually had a word. She's like, we have to stop saying Connection Codes is not the easy road. It's the narrow road, which, by the way, is what Jesus calls us to. It's narrow and it is difficult, but it's so rewarding. I love how, like, the Mrs. Erika that you and I have had, that Tiana and I have had, that Vadim and I have had.
Wow, it's quite the common denominator there.
You guys have them with yourselves too.
We do,
Actually,
but it was
have
just
you-
funny the way you said it.
Have you and Vadim had a big mess where you guys had to like resolve it?
I'm sure.
I think so, yeah.
Did you
But
know about this?
not a
Erika?
big one. I'm not sure what you mean.
Did
by
she storm?
big.
Did she storm out of the room?
No, she did not
Okay.
exit the scene.
Well, not a big one then.
No.
I actually feel like Vadim's superpower is the ooh, and he's able to get
Oh,
super
yeah.
curious. And so it feels like, I mean, the fear would be
That's
I've missed
not what
Vadim.
my wife would say.
Right.
yeah, it's easier.
We can phone Mary and
I still need to work on that. But
I can phone my sister and be like, Vadim. No, he's actually easy to get along with. I would love to go to our staff meeting just a couple weeks ago and share the miss that happened there, how it started just flooding all of us with emotion,
This is not a 7-minute.
and
this is a whole podcast.
and how we like dealt with it. Obviously, it didn't get dealt with right away, and we're still for sure processing and like working through things. But I would love, I would love to bring our people into the backstage of like, we obviously are not perfect and we're missing each other all the time still. And we're having and we're having disconnects, and we're having hurts and pains and angers still with each other. Does one of you want to kind of just paint a 30-second scene of kind of what happened at that staff meeting and what played out and maybe where we went wrong or what we did right there? Because I just want to bring people in.
We're not going to be able to finish this conversation because there's a lot happening there.
Yeah.
But do you want to?
I feel like I wouldn't be able to do a good job of actually saying what happened, but
everything's legal, by the way. I'm totally fine.
But to bring people in, there is a dynamic. I think what's happened for us is at first we were very logistical, more professional, and then we decided as a staff team we wanted to go deeper with each other. And so now we're a couple of years into this, and our relationships, we are more connected, which means that when we miss each other, it hurts more. And so in this staff meeting, I perceived that Vadim was getting a bit missed.
Just share it like it is. I'm totally fine.
Well, yeah, Vadim was getting a little bit missed, and in Erika's disorder of the psyche, when she gets flooded, she gets full of fear.
What was that?
Vadim called that. He said,
it's gonna fall.
I have viewed that. Did you guys just see what happened? I just about died. You know what? When I was with Glenn and Phyllis here,
3-hour podcast.
When I was with Glenn and Phyllis here, I saw that in the mirror, and I was like, "That would suck if that fell on me." And had that thought, and then it literally fell like on my head almost. Oh my gosh.
Boy.
Okay, Erika, share how it is. Vadim had a miss. He was disregarded by me, and it was over something trivial.
It was the length of the live stream.
Which
I said it was 2 hours. He said no.
I said no, 150.
150.
Yeah.
And I said no, it was 2 hours. And he said,
I said no,
150.
Yeah.
And moving on. And so I got
I
hurt.
moved on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got hurt and still faced in the middle.
What does that mean? Still faced? Right. You shut down.
Yeah, you shut down. You don't express your emotion. You're hurt so much that you don't say ouch.
Yeah.
Because you feel like no one noticed my pain. Right. No one will.
Yeah.
So you just kind of like
so
numb yourself.
That happened and I saw it.
Okay, and you didn't share what was happening for you.
I didn't share. No,
you just
not in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have inside of me just things brewing and jamming.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Erika sees that.
And I see that. And I never
saying anything.
It's so hard for me to know. I mean, I feel like even just what do I say? Do I get involved? Is that not my business? I feel shame if I get involved, but I feel guilt if I don't. Anyways.
Right, which you felt that often. Like, what role am I playing here? Am I the coach that comes in? And am I the counselor? Yeah. Should I just let them figure it out?
So we let that one go. I let that one go. Vadim let that one go. Nothing was said there. Okay. So then moving on. Another thing is happening.
Well, something else comes up.
Yeah, something else comes up, and you felt a bit missed. Jimmy felt a bit missed in kind of a miss with Gigi communication wise.
Yeah.
And then one of your logistical solutions to that miss disregarded. Well, then Vadim was like, well, actually, your logistic doesn't work because I've been doing that.
Yeah.
And then
you
Vadim got missed again. And then
you got vocal there.
Yeah. So then I'm like, whoa, I feel like Vadim's getting missed here.
Yeah.
And then also Gigi starts crying and she's feeling super emotional. And I'm like, oh no, Gigi's getting missed too. And so this is where I become like a dumber version of myself because I feel fear to slow us all the way down to the point where I know I'm supposed to. Like what I was trained to do is slow it way down and not move past Vadim until we've found Vadim.
Right.
Or not.
Which we already
past
failed
Gigi.
at.
Yeah.
We already moved past.
And Jimmy's the powerful giant in the room, so I'm not worried about trying to find Jimmy, which caused a lot of pain for you as well.
Right.
So
none of us are sharing this in the moment, though.
No.
Like we did this poorly.
Yeah, and I'm kind of just trying to stop this person. And so for me in that moment, I just have all of this fear. I'm flooded with fear that Vadim is getting loud, but if he doesn't get heard, he'll get quiet and we'll never find him ever again, and he'll never share again, which is ridiculous. And I'm feeling the same fear about Gigi.
But why is that ridiculous? Because that's totally fair. That like if that happens enough times to Vadim, of course he's gonna do that. He's gonna shut down. He's never gonna voice things again. He's gonna quit. Like those are his options. But the reality
of the situation is, were we at that degree of seriousness?
Right.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But like in my mind, I'm like throwing my body over their bodies because I'm like grenades are going off. Like looking back, I felt shame that I just.
You're seeing that I'm missing Vadim so much that you're jumping in front of Vadim and being like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Not because you hate me, because you love me and recognize that I'm stepping on him and just completely disregarding him, which obviously it wasn't just about the live stream. There's lots of deeper stuff going on, but that's what brought it up, right?
Yes. And then something similar with Gigi, where it was kind of like you're telling her, hey, I'm going to be safe for you. And I'm like, whoa, 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 let's just ask what she needs. But even that whoa, 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 Logan had said that seemed like a part where Erika, you should just let them have their moment, and I'm getting involved where it's not my business.
Yeah.
And I, still that tension of like feeling shame.
Tiana's not sure what to do. She wants to be on my side. It's starting to feel like sides a little bit.
Tiana's lonely. Quiet and holding your hand but crying, and Gigi.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, and then so anyways, for time's sake, we kind of put a pause on this. Jimmy was feeling super hurt and like attacked, and like we all ganged up on Jimmy.
Right. Lonely. I think
Vadim got
lonely
quiet.
Lonely was my biggest thing.
Yeah, and Vadim got really quiet. But then I know the two of you processed together, which went really well. You said after that.
Yeah. Next morning.
And then, so then fast forward after the Connection Codes weekend, we invited Glenn and Phyllis into this with us. Yeah. And really worked hard on finding each other. Lots happened.
Right.
Lots of tears from me. Lots of tears from Gigi.
Yeah.
And I did actually feel like that was messy and that was painful, but we all, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the lesson we all learned there, we couldn't go back and find out exactly what went wrong the last time. That's impossible to do.
Yeah.
What we all learned from that though is, wow, we need to be way more authentic in the moment. We need to slow down.
Yeah.
We need to slow way down and find each other.
And share what's happening.
I should have told you that, hey, that hurts when you said it's 1 hour and 50 minutes.
Which, to be fair, you did share that quite close. Like, didn't you share it like 30 seconds later, being like, I was like, Vadim, what's happening for you? And you said
my dam burst, and that was
because I asked for it.
What's happening for you? You did ask me because you noticed something, and but it was like spilling out. There was just also lots of unprocessed emotion from previously. That kind of was dragged into that moment. So yes, I did say like, yes, I got hurt. But it wasn't in the moment. It's still like, 30 seconds, 1 minute after. It's still like it's doing something inside of me. So it wasn't like
I hit you with a stick and you were silent.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
45
and
seconds.
Like holding my
you
pain and not saying ouch.
Yeah.
Versus like immediately, ouch. That hurt.
Right.
And that's it. And we can move on.
And the problem
we
with
can
waiting.
Go deeper, whatever.
Right.
The biggest problem with waiting, which I feel like I was reminded so much this weekend with Glenn and Phyllis. The big problem with waiting is then when you get to the need, it's hard to know what your need is.
Yeah.
Because you kind of your interpretation of it is kind of convoluted.
Right.
It's basically don't hurt me.
Yeah.
That's my need.
Totally.
Yeah.
You asked me after that. So we had the staff meeting with Glenn and Phyllis. Then you had your own session with Tiana.
Yeah.
Then you came back and you're like, I want to find you. Like, what do you need?
Yeah. What does find you mean? Reconnect.
Yeah, and really regard my experience. Find me in my experience.
Right.
Yeah. And so and in you asking me what I need, it was like there's just too much pain. It's too far back. Whereas the more in the moment you can do it, the more you're like, oh, in that moment, this tiny wording change would actually help a lot. Or I actually don't need you to change anything. I think that was fully an accident. There's nothing you could have foreseen. Right. I just want to tell you. I just want to process with you.
Yeah. which means it's more difficult to, I don't want to say fix, but fix it when you don't say ouch in the moment. Glenn's big thing was, you guys just got to share that in the moment. Like, stop stepping on a nail and not sharing.
Yeah.
And you could have shared immediately. Immediately, I could have felt, I was feeling lonely and unsupported. I should have shared that. Erika, whatever, you were feeling fear, probably, that they were just going to get missed.
Yeah.
Gigi, what she was feeling. Tiana, what she was feeling. Like, what we should have done. Now we are wiser. This was 2 weeks ago. We were so much more young and foolish then. Now we know. But what we could and should have done is slow it down, right?
Yeah.
And maybe just gone around and do a wheel. Hey, let's just go around and share a wheel. That alone would have slowed us down.
Well, and then for me, it should have happened way before the staff meeting. Because for me, it was just a series of sticks on the head and ouch. That was,
I'm sorry, I keep bonking you on the head.
Yeah, but it was like, I should have said that, 2 weeks ago when it all started, or when I started feeling like, oh, he's kind of
first started
hurting
bonking.
me or whatever. Right. I should have said that. But no, I let that dam back up, and then it.
Why did you?
Why?
What? Let me rephrase that.
Yes, do not.
You cannot say why.
Say why.
What happened for you that you did not say ouch 2 weeks ago?
Maybe I didn't feel.
Maybe
I didn't feel heard previously, and I was like, basically, if I say, he's not gonna regard my experience.
Wow,
it happened over and over again.
I wasn't
so I was
perceived as safe.
Yeah, in some ways,
yeah.
It wasn't important in your view, maybe.
Right, which is a huge thing that we haven't necessarily talked about. If the person is not safe, if I'm not safe, of course you're not going to say ouch. Like, it's not just that you're not saying ouch because you don't want to. It's like, I'm with this person who is not safe. I can't say ouch.
Yeah. Yeah, and we went deep into what that core for me, and that it was just
2 years ago.
2 years ago when you said that you value me and you're so important, and all of a sudden the experiences were not aligning with that that one phrase, and that's what was causing that, right? And just but it was never processed, and it just until that moment when it so exploded.
Right, man, what a miss, hey?
Right,
like 2 years ago, I say I value your here's what you bring. You're amazing, and then fast forward 2 years. The live stream was 2 hours. No, it was 150.
Yeah.
And what you're hearing is, wait, he said...
You don't matter. Yeah. You're not significant. I'm losing identity right front and center. Yeah.
Wait, he said, I value you.
Yeah. No, he doesn't mean that. Yeah, yeah.
So crazy. Yeah. And imagine, here's what I'm so thankful. Imagine if that staff meeting, which just happens all the time, I see from churches and leadership and businesses and teams, that happened, and we just say, water under the bridge and just move on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so painful.
Well, especially when you're trying to get things done.
Yeah.
It's the what's the value there? Like, what are you actually valuing? Are you valuing connection, or are you valuing get things done and be successful as professional and everything?
Right. Yeah.
And I think we started valuing the connection more.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that is going to make the most things get done, because if Vadim consistently hears the message, he doesn't have value and he doesn't have significance, he'll get louder for a while, then he'll get silent, and you can only survive in an environment where you are receiving the message, I don't have value, I don't have significance, I don't matter here, for so long before you leave.
Right.
And so if he was experiencing that, there's only so long that Vadim can survive in Evangel on Jimmy's staff team.
Yeah.
For so long. It doesn't matter if
no matter how much he's paid.
Yeah, and no matter how much Jimmy's trying to be safe and wanting to convey that and believes that Vadim does have value and significance. Right. It doesn't matter if Vadim's not.
And it doesn't matter how many times I say, I'm safe. No, I'm safe. And trust me, I'm safe. I'm safe. Bonk, bonk. Well, I'm safe. I'm safe.
Right.
So cool. I just want to give a real life, I know we're out of time, but a real life experience of like how this is playing out, and just showing that like we aren't perfect at it and we aren't always getting it, but it's good. We're learning this new language. Hola. Okay. I love you guys. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming on the Backstage. Pastor, episode 8, I believe.
Woohoo.
Wow.
We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. See ya.
Awesome.